Hello! This is Kesey Piano Tutoring, back with another lesson. Last time we learned about hand fingerings, basic countings, time signatures, and measures. Now this time we're going to be learning about an overview of the keyboard, hand positionings, and letters of notes.
Before we get into the lesson, we want you to play around with the keyboard. Press down on some of the keys. As you do so, think of the following questions. Which side of the keyboard has low-pitched notes? Which side of the keyboard has high-pitched notes? Is there a pattern on the keyboard? We recommend stopping the video for now so you can think about these questions. This will prepare you for the lesson ahead. And don't worry, we'll answer these questions soon. Okay, now it's time to answer those questions. I'm going to play around with notes myself to show you the answers. Just remember that the higher pitched notes are like a mouse's squeal or can be uplifting, and lower pitched notes are like an elephant's rumble or usually depressing. So let's give it a try. The left side sounds somewhat depressing, so that must be the lower pitched notes. And the higher pitched notes are on the right side. If you remember in the last video, we were playing Mary Had a Little Lamb with a few selected notes on the keyboard. They seem pretty random, right? Well, we'll put some pieces of paper on the keyboard to show you how simple a keyboard can be. Alright, now that we grouped notes on the keyboard together, we can see a pattern. All of the groups, except for the very ends, look the same. And throughout the keyboard, we have groups of black keys in 2s and 3s. See right here for the 2s, and the 3s are right next to the papers. These black keys help us find the notes that we want to play. In music, each note is given a letter. We use these letters to easily tell us which notes we are playing. While the regular alphabet goes from A to Z, the musical alphabet goes from A to G. Why is that? Well, let's look at the number of white keys in each one of these groups. If we give each of these white keys a letter starting with A, then the last one would be G. And now let's test that out. Okay, now we labeled all the notes in each group. So if we were to start with A for the first note of the group, we would go all the way down to the end until the last note, G, which is the 7th note. And this pattern keeps repeating throughout the whole keyboard. So since this ends at G, we would just restart to the alphabet again, so that would be A. And so all the first ones would be A, the second ones would be B, and so forth. But let's see what happens when we play 2 of the same letter together. So let's say this one is A, and this A. Those two A's sound a bit similar, right? Well, they're really the same note, but at a different pitch. And when that happens, when we have 2 of the same letter, we call that an octave. We're going to be going over octaves more in the next episode, so you don't have to worry about octaves for now. Another note is that we're not going to be worrying about pressing on the black keys until later. Why? If you were asked what letter you would say first in the alphabet, you would say the letter A. However, the musical letter or note that you would start on first would be C. Why though? First off, it's easier to find a grouping of notes if the first note is C. And let me show you why. First off, it's easier to find a group of notes if the first note is C than a group starting with A, since you can easily see 2 black keys and 3 black keys. Secondly, C is an important note on the keyboard because of middle C. The most important note on the keyboard is middle C. It helps you figure out where the other notes are on the keyboard. You'll just have to memorize the note by sound though. since it really depends on which keyboard and what piano it is. So on our keyboard, this is where it is. It's this note. And so I'll play it to you again. If you know the song Do Re Mi, you notice that it sounds exactly like Do. So that'll help you out if you want to figure out which C is middle C. Out of all these C's, this one is. So now that we know what the letters and notes are, then we can start properly playing music. But before we even do that, we want to make sure that you have your hands in the right playing position. So what we want you to do, first thing, find a small ball, such as this one, or anything spherical shape. Maybe it'd be like a tennis ball, a pokeball, or even EOS, the egg-shaped lip balms. Hold on to one of those in your right hand. You want to make sure that you have it loose, but enough to hold the ball. Then in your other hand, we're going to have you take the ball out, but we want to make sure to keep the right hand in the same position. So this is in the same position as before. Okay? And then what we have to do after that, get yourself a penny or a small coin if you're not in the US. Put this on the top of your hand like so. And try playing notes on the keyboard. So remember, you're going to put your hand on the keyboard like that. But we want to make sure that this penny never falls off. Alright, so we're going to be moving on to our song, Ode to Joy, but only for the right hand. As you can see right here, we have RH and LH. But for this one, we only want you to play the RH part. The link in our video will only give you the RH. What we also want you to make sure is to not focus on the MF over here or any of these circles. They don't matter to the music. But before we begin anything, we want to figure out where we would place our fingers. So let's look at the top next to Ode to Joy. Under the title Ode to Joy, we have C position. So that means if any song has a position with a letter, that means that the leftmost note is going to be that letter. So in this case, C position, so the leftmost note on the right hand will be C. And what we want you to do is try to look out for middle C. That's the C we're going to be using. So I just want you to make sure you play around with the keyboard. And see which one it is. And middle C is this one. The one that sounds like Do. So we're going to put C right here. And then we still have the other 4 fingers of our right hand. So we're going to go from C all the way over here. So, of course, that's D, E, F, and G. We're putting the stickers on first because they'll help us with the fingering that we're going to be using for writing on the Ode to Joy before we start playing. Okay, so now we're going to be going into writing the hand numbers and the countings. Let's start with the fingers first, since we have the stickers C, D, E, F, and G. So let's see right here. So we would put 1 finger on each one of these, so your thumb, second, middle, 4th, and 5th right here. And let's pay attention to the letters. So E, it gives us that it's finger number 3. So that's good. And so that means that this E is also 3. And then next one is F. So if E is 3, then this one has to be F, number 4. And G would be number 5. And we double check it over here because this G is also 5. And so that means that these letters are going to be the same, so F is also 4, 3, and then D will be right here. So that will be 2. This one that gives us 1, see? So now we just need to fill in the blanks. Okay, here we are. So we have our right hand fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now let's focus on the countings. So if you remember in the last episode, we learned about quarter, half, and whole notes. Quarter notes, most of the notes that we have here, the ones that are filled in, those are worth 1 beat. And each beat has a number. And we go from 1 to how many beats there are. So this music, we're going to just keep it as 4/4. So we're just going to be doing the same thing as before. Keep counting in each measure from 1 to 4, and then just keep reciting. So 1 beat, so we start number 1, then 1 beat, so another number 2, 3, 4, and then we start again on 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is where it could get a bit tricky. So we have a quarter note, so we'll just start that as 1. And then another quarter note, so another number right here. And we have the half note. The half note is worth 2 beats, so you're going to write 2 numbers in it. So we needed 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're missing 3 and 4, which happen to be 2 numbers. So we're just going to write it under that. Okay, and then let's practice the countings before we get to playing. Because if you don't count correctly, then you don't know exactly what you're playing, right? Alright, so let's look at it from here. Okay, so starting from the top. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now let's get to the actual playing. Alright, so now we're ready to play. Alright, now let's begin playing the music. I put the stickers over here so it makes it easier for you to tell what letters we're playing. And so for this one, you can either look at the fingerings that you wrote on the top, or you can pay attention to the letters. We want you to pay more attention to the letters if you can. Well, let's get started. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to count the beats. And so, here we're going to start the music. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, this whole time you want to make sure that your hands are curled and in the proper position. So here's the same thing, but a little bit faster. Alright, so that's it. We'll see you in the next episode.